All right, guys. So the Cleveland Browns just beat the Cincinnati Bengals 35-30. It was a pretty good game for the most part. I know Cleveland took a pretty big lead late in that fourth quarter when they pretty much just ran over the Cincinnati Bengals and they went and it was 35 to 23. But got to give a lot of credit to the Cincinnati Bengals. I know the Browns were favorites, and I think they actually did. I think the Browns were actually 5 point favorites according to Vegas, according to the spread there. So, so I think so. Yeah, they definitely covered the spread. I believe. Again, you guys can correct me in the comment section if that was if 5 points was the correct spread. But gotta give a lot of credit to Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield was dogged. He was trashed. I called him average, which I still believe. No disrespect to Baker Mayfield. I just think he's overhyped. I'm gonna be honest. I think he's an average quarterback who could get to that above average tier. But for now, I think he's an average quarterback. But he was pretty efficient. Pretty efficient tonight. Took care of the football for the most part. I know he had that one interception. He had that one interception trying to go towards, I believe, Hunter. I think he was trying to go to Hunter. The FAU tight end towards and he got intercepted in the goal line. But still, got to give a lot of credit to Baker Mayfield. He was efficient, played with a chip on his shoulder, and he definitely showed out tonight. Again, 16 for 23, 16 and 19 yards. Again, not the most. Not the most passing yards in the world. Wasn't 300 or 400 yards, but again, he was efficient. And he really didn't need to throw the ball because the run game was there. The offensive line was very dominant, especially in the run department. We all know the Bengals' defensive line is very banged up, especially because you're losing, the captain, one of the leaders of your defense, one of the best defensive tackles, 4-3 defensive tackles in the league, and Geno Atkins. The Bengals' defensive line was already banged up going into this game. Cleveland just took advantage of that. Cleveland got the offensive line to be one of the best run-blocking offensive lines in the NFL. Very, very aggressive there in that front. So they definitely took advantage of that opportunity of Geno Atkins and some of those guys on the defensive line not playing, and they absolutely turned it on. Nick Chubb was a monster tonight. I think he had over 100 yards. The guys definitely blocked for Kareem Hunt. He had 86 yards, averaged 8.6 yards per carry. So if you got Kareem Hunt on your fantasy team, he definitely did a really, really great day for you. Has some rushing touchdowns in there as well. Another player I think that did a pretty good job today was Odell Beckham Jr. Odell Beckham Jr. He was criticized last week. He was a guy that the Browns were interested in trading him. That was the reports that he was open on the trade market. Caught a touchdown pass, I think, on the first drive of the game. Had 74 yards. So, Odell Beckham Jr., not the greatest day of the world. I think he still needs to show out, still needs to show that he is one of the best receivers in the NFL instead of just being this prima donna that he's always labeled as. But Odell Beckham Jr., I definitely thought that he had a pretty efficient day today as far as him. As far as his route tree going against other guys, there was some passes from Baker Mayfield that could have got to Odell Beckham Jr., especially in the back of the end zone. But it was a tough throw, so really can't blame Baker Mayfield or Odell Beckham Jr. for that type of situation. As far as Joe Burrow, I thought had a pretty okay day. He definitely showed some improvement compared to last week. Was a little bit more confident. Definitely felt like he had some jitters last week, but was more confident today. Bengals missed some real huge opportunities, especially when they were on the goal line. They were on the goal line and they just couldn't really punch it in. I definitely felt like that was, I know Bengals fans and these radio stations are definitely going to be talking about that goal line situation where the Browns kind of stood up the Bengals on the goal line. But Joe Burrow had a pretty okay day for the most part. Now, he did pass the ball a lot. And, I'm a Bills fan, and Josh Allen had 46 pass attempts on Sunday. And I'm like, damn, that's a lot of passes. Well, no, Joe Burrow, he decided to say, hold my beer. I'm going to go for 60. 60 pass attempts, 63 pass attempts, was able to complete, I think, 30 of them. So I think he completed a little bit to under 60% of his throws, but still had over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, didn't turn over the football. He turned over the football. Actually was a strip sack by Myles Garrett, who was all over the field tonight. It was just an absolute menace out there. But still, as far as interceptions, didn't really throw any interceptions. Took care of the ball in that aspect. But he did have that fumble again by Myles Garrett, who was an absolute just bulldozer out there tonight. Was all over that offensive line. Some shockers. I want to say Adrian Claiborne. Adrian Claiborne had a pretty decent day. And again, I haven't heard of Adrian Claiborne since he was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So Adrian, Claiborne had a pretty decent day. Whether if they was rushing him in the interior, whether if they was rushing him on the outside, had a pretty decent day. This guy Gustin number 97, Gustin, he played pretty well too in the inside as well. He had a sack taken away from him because of the face mask penalty. But I thought that Gustin was really dominant, especially in the run game in the interior. Um, so yeah, Sheldon Richardson, along with Miles Garrett. I forgot about Sheldon Richardson, but he had a dominant day, and as far as the run department, and especially being that interior pass rusher, Sheldon Richardson was very dominant today, along with Miles Garrett. So I got to give those two guys credit. The Bengals offensive line got to get better. They've got to get better on the offensive line. Joe Burrow, he took a lot of big shots, a lot of big shots today. So they got to try to address that problem somehow. Now again, that might not be this year. It might be next year where they try to address that problem. Again, the Bengals were the worst overall team last year for a reason, but they really have to try to address that offensive line. Joe Burrow took some huge shots. Receivers wise, there were a lot of drop passes by the receivers today. Right, AJ Green had some drops here. Tyler Boyd made some really good catches, but I think he had a drop too. One or two are there. T Higgins had a drop here, two in there. Even though Denzel Ward, every time T Higgins was in the game, Denzel Ward was covering him, whether if he was in the slot or whether if it was out wide. So I think the receivers honestly didn't have a good day. They didn't really do a good job separating for the Bengals. For the Browns secondary. Didn't do a good job in that department as far as separation. But still, it's week 2. They're also coming off a very short week from Sunday all the way to Thursday. This is the worst team in all of football last year, so I think that this team is still growing. Joe Burrow, as far as the chemistry with these receivers, you can definitely feel that the chemistry is still lacking a little bit there. So I feel like this Bengals offensive unit, especially in the offensive line, they need more time, they need more playing time, need more in-game situations in order for them to try to get it going and maybe have this Bengals team make a little bit of a run here, not to the playoffs, but maybe try to get some W's. But overall wise, this was a really close, competitive game. I know it was 35-23. The Browns ran all over the Bengals, but this was a very entertaining game. It was close up until that late fourth quarter point, and then obviously Joe Burrow and that Bengals offense, garbage time, drove and scored that touchdown for Tyler Boyd. But this was, again, very fun, entertaining game compared to what we saw from Sunday night between that Titans-Broncos football game. Even though there were some sloppy moments here and there, again, we got to understand that there's no preseason, and these guys are still trying to work and get together, trying to get that continuity together. So, that's pretty much my thoughts about that thing. But if you guys like the video, make sure you guys hit the share button, also subscribe, and hit the notification bell, especially if you want to try to get notified whenever I talk about in-game analysis, or I do talk about college football, sports here and there. If you guys want to get notified from me, make sure to follow me on Twitter. I have my Twitter, my Instagram, all my social media in the description box below. So make sure you guys check that out so you guys can stay updated to me. And that's all I got for you guys today. So anyway, Jan716, aka Jan Sports. I'll check you guys later. Have a good night. Peace.